How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Buddy's House of Horror podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, this was one of the most fun podcasts that I have ever recorded. I don't know if the content really communicates that effectively, but this was one of the most fun podcasts that I have ever done, and I hope that I can do some more podcasts like this in the near future, because I recorded this podcast outside by a fire. Welcome to the first of many fireside chats. I don't even know if I'm allowed to call it that. I don't know if that's trademarked. A campfire conversation at Buddy's House of Horror. This one in particular focused on 10 things to do to get yourself ready for the spooky season. 10 spooky suggestions, 10 things to get you in the perfect headspace, in the perfect vibe, in the perfect atmosphere to celebrate the Halloween season. This is by far the most laid-back podcast I've ever done. Basically, I just made a campfire and I sat outside with my microphone and just, sort of chatted. I just sort of talked. I just sort of let whatever I wanted to say come out with some basic bullet points. It was a really fun episode to do, so I hope you guys enjoy it, and let me know what you want me to talk about next in front of a campfire. And we're just going to get right to the show, but before we do that, like always, if you guys haven't already, please make sure you're subscribing to the show wherever you listen to the show, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you're leaving me a like, make sure you're leaving me a rating and a review, make sure you're spreading the good word about Buddy's House of Horror. Wherever you have people who would enjoy the House of Horror, make sure you're pointing this show in their direction. And without further ado, we're just going to get right to my campfire conversation. And once again, this was just so fun to do, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So now it is time to get spooky. How is it going, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Buddy's House of Horror podcast. A very special episode of Buddy's House of Horror podcast because it's being recorded outside of the House of Horror. This is actually being recorded in the backyard of the House of Horror, the cemetery of the House of Horror, back in the graveyard, in front of a crackling fire. I'm having an incredible night, boys and ghouls out there. I'm having a great night of autumnal delights, a great night of autumnal pleasures. This is something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to record a podcast outside in front of a crackling fire. So we're going to see how well this sounds. I don't know if you can even hear the crackling fire in this, but I promise you that the crackling fire exists within this podcast. I'm actually going to take a photo of this to document the experience, and the photo is taken. The photo is taken. I'll probably trim that down a little bit because I was trying to angle it, but the photo is taken. There is an airplane going right above me. Or is it not an airplane? Is it some sort of spooky specter in the night sky? We're going to have a real laid-back episode today, you guys. I've got a Samuel Adams Jack O pumpkin ale, my favorite pumpkin beer of every year. And this is going to be a real laid-back episode. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be calling it yet, but it's going to be something in the vein of top 10 things to do in spooky season, top 10 autumnal delights, top 10 ways to celebrate the spooky season, top 10 ways to celebrate your love for the holiday and all things that it encompasses. As I said, I'm already drinking a pumpkin beer. Earlier tonight, I had some pizza. I actually had some pizza out here before I started recording with the fire from one of my favorite pizza spots in the Cleveland area. It's actually in Parma. I call it the Halloween pizza place because they decorate the place out with Halloween decorations. It's a lovely spot. Real good, like homemade, like small town, like doughy pizza, like pizza party pizza. Not something high class like Ohio Pie or, super specialty like Edison's. Those are my two favorite pizza places in the Cleveland area. But this place might be my third favorite. It's just like this very like hometown, small town, just like good quality, nostalgic pizza. It's a very nostalgic pizza place, my Halloween pizza place. And that's kind of what inspired this list. That's kind of what inspired to do this episode. I always wanted to have a fire and record a podcast. I had some Halloween pizza. I quickly jotted down 10 things, not in order, but 10 ways that you can celebrate the spooky season to its fullest. This is not just including watch a movie. This is not including play a Resident Evil game. That's stuff you can do all year long. Of course, incorporate watching a film or playing a game into your Halloween season. But we're going to go a little bit beyond that, I guess. It's going to be a little bit, more in tune with things that you absolutely need to do in October. Like I said, you can watch a horror film any time of the year and have it be completely fine. I'm going to expand on that a little bit because obviously we're talking about watching movies in this podcast as well. Same with horror games. I mean, if you want to include an honorable mention, because I don't have anything gaming related on the list, honorable mention is, speed run a bunch of Resident Evil games. Watch some Let's Plays all night long of some horror games. You can put that on the list. That'll be our honorable mention. But these ones, I came up with 10. Again, this is not a perfect list. These are just 10 things that I thought of. Again, more spooky specters in the air. I don't know if you can hear all of them. Some whistling, some hummings. But we're just going to get started with this list. Again, I don't really know how the audio quality is going to sound in this, so hopefully it sounds okay. This is a very low stakes episode, so if this one doesn't sound perfect, that's fine. This is very DIY. This is very nostalgic. I'm already enjoying doing this a lot more than recording stuff inside. I mean, obviously, I can't record every podcast outside in front of a roaring fire in the middle of the night, but that's what we're doing tonight. And it might be something that I continue to do depending on how well this sounds, how well it turns out. If not, it'll just be some weird experimental episode that sounds a little bit different than the rest of the episodes you guys are used to. But as of right now, this is our campfire episode. I would love to do an episode where we tell scary stories around the campfire or something. But right now, this is the campfire episode of Buddy's House of Horror for this year. We'll see if we do some more. But these are the top 10 ways to get ready for Halloween. The top 10 spooky season recommendations, spooky suggestions. These are the top 10 things I think you need to do to get yourself in that Halloween mood and to celebrate all month long. And even prior to this month, I mean, October kind of comes and goes in the blink of an eye. Like October and the Halloween season need to be at least like 3 times as long as what they are. My wife always gets on my case about wanting to do so many Halloween activities in the month of September. And there's just no way in October that you can get all of these things done. So get as many of these done as you can with however long in the month you have left, but definitely reference this episode next year, starting on July 5th, to gear yourself up for that Halloween season. These are 10. These are not in any order. It's not a top 10. These are just 10 spooky suggestions to get you ready for the spooky season. And we're going to start it off with decorating your home. Now, luckily, in our case, we have a lot of, I guess, vintage Halloween decorations up already, like all year long. But at least do something little with your house. Put up a couple fake spider webs. Maybe switch out some of the hanging pictures in your wall. Maybe put up some Halloween pictures instead. Betzel die cuts are great. If you can get some Betzel die cuts, just put a couple of those on your wall. You're automatically going to get this vintage Halloween look. Again, you can go as crazy with it as you want. I mean, obviously, you can walk into Spirit Halloween and get an Art the Clown life-size figure that moves. Or you could do something more subtle. I mean, like I said, switching out the curtains to like black curtains or something like that. You need to have some sort of way in your home to get you into that vibe. And again, as I said, we have stuff all year long that we have up that contribute to a spooky season, but just adding a little bit extra in October goes a long way. A lot of our style in our home is we kind of do kind of like a more classy kind of thing. We don't go all out with the entire walls need to be covered with Halloween stuff. We kind of just do little subtle pieces within our home that amplify the horror atmosphere. Because as I said, a lot of the stuff we have up all the time already. So really, our Halloween decoration is very minimal, but it is essential in getting you in to the spooky spirit. Coming up next for number 2 on the list, or number 9, or however I started numbering these. I can't even remember how I started numbering these. I think you could probably hear some werewolves out in the night right now if you listen hard enough. I don't know if they are picking up on the microphone, but next door there are definitely werewolves in the backyard that were going ape shit at one time or another. For the next part of the list, we're talking about going on just a nice autumn walk or an autumn drive. Go see some decorated houses in your neighborhood, at least here in the Cleveland area. There are a lot of houses that really go all out. So if you're not into decorating yourself, definitely go check out the decorations that those in your community have put the hard work in to get them ready for the Halloween season. I mean, around here, on at least every street, there's someone who has that 12-foot skeleton in the front yard from Home Depot. There's elaborate dioramas all over the Cleveland area. There's lots of people that really go all out on the outside of their homes for the Halloween season. So, again, if it's not something that you can do, like financially, or something you can do, like realistically with the space you're at, or if you're just not really into decorating that much, definitely go check out what other people have. If not, I mean, just going on a nice walk through a park with the leaves on the ground, something special. Perhaps you have a hot cider with you, some hot tea or a coffee, going on a nice walk in a park or going on a nature trail or something like that. Seeing the autumn vibes and everything that it's in is also an essential thing to getting yourself ready for the Halloween season. Either a walk or a drive. I mean, recently, I'll take my own personal experience into account here. I recently had jury duty, which was very exciting, in Jefferson, Ohio. And if you've never been to Jefferson, Ohio, it is a Midwest town that feels about 20 years behind the rest of society. So you're driving through there, it feels like old school Halloween. It's also kind of like a farm town. There's lots of corn stalks. Like there's whole roads where you're just in between a bunch of corn stalks and hay and stuff like that. It looks like the opening to Halloween 4. It is absolutely incredible. But just wherever you're at, I mean, even if you live like deep in the heart of the city, like find some time to make your way into some of the suburbs or something. Just kind of see what's going on over there. You won't regret it. I'm sure cities have some nice places you can walk as well. Like, as I said, if you have like a centralized park or something like that, definitely make sure that you are doing that. Next, you got to go Halloween shopping one way or another, or give Halloween gifts in one way or another. And I'm not necessarily talking about trick-or-treaters. I didn't include handing out candy or going trick-or-treating within this top 10. And that's because, I mean, a lot of people don't even really do the trick-or-treat thing anymore, but I just felt it was too obvious to include in this list, I guess. I mean, obviously that's a part of Halloween. If it's something you're interested in doing, go and do it. I did not include it in this particular list. But something my wife and I love to do, since we love the season so much, is we actually give each other Halloween gifts. Boo buckets, if you will. I mean, you're usually not in a bucket, but it's the same sort of concept, rather. We love doing it. And every year it's something different, like even if it's just a couple films or a Halloween-themed wine, some candles. This year I got her a Typo Negative action figure along with some candles and some decorations for the house and bath towels and things like that. Just things that you can do for your friends, for your loved ones during this time. It doesn't even have to be anything elaborate, but just something that shows in the Halloween season that you're thinking about them, that you care about them. I'm notorious for giving... Well, Jared gets his birthday presents, and Maisie gets their birthday presents in Halloween, so those are obviously always somewhat spooky themed. But I got Miles a gift for Halloween. It's just a nice way to, kind of extend the gift-giving season, kind of extend what you can do. And again, it doesn't need to be something that's going to put you into some sort of financial hardship, obviously. It can be something simple. It can be handmade. It can be something like that. Just something... And you don't have to do it for everybody, everyone in your family, all your friends. I did my close friends, my wife, obviously. Both of my nephews got gifts. Just your kind of like close, tight-knit circle. It's a lot of fun, and it's really rewarding. I love giving gifts in general, and I love giving gifts during the Halloween season. So definitely make sure you have time to do some spooky seasonal shopping this year. Even if it's just going to walk around Spirit Halloween, see what they have. Go to a thrift store. I mean, during this time of year, like Goodwills and Habitats for Humanity and like all these places, they have a lot of their Halloween stuff out during this time of year. So you're always going to find some cool stuff around this time of the year for Halloween season. So that is definitely an essential part of the list as well. For number 4, I have cooking a haunted meal or dessert and to make an activity out of it. There's tons of lists that you can look at online for inspiration for stuff that you can make. Not even for like a Halloween party, just for a weekly dinner. I mean, just like last week, I made my wife and I jack-o'-lantern stuffed peppers. I went to the store, got specifically orange peppers, but you can use whatever kind of peppers you want. And you make stuffed peppers, but you cut the little jack-o'-lantern eyes and a mouth and all that kind of stuff in them. It's great. It was fun. Something we like to do this year, it's not specifically Halloween themed, but every year we do kind of like to have like a little fire in the fall time, and typically we'll do like nachos in the fire, like some campfire nachos. You put your nachos together, put it in foil, throw it on the fire. It's a great time, and this year when we do it, we always go to the store and get some sort of autumn-themed chips to use for the dish. Like Target has the Good and Gather orange and black chips. I'm sure that Trader Joe's has stuff similar. All your grocery stores have some sort of stuff that you can use for that, obviously. But there's tons of shit that you can make. You can make a goulash. You can make... you can even make just those Pillsbury cookies or something like that. Decorate a spooky gingerbread house. Like anything. Just make an activity out of food. It's fun. Obviously hand out candy, shit like that too. But just anything you can do to help cultivate the aesthetic, cultivate and maximize what you're doing this Halloween season is going to go a long way. So we've done a few like spooky themed meals and dinners and desserts and stuff like that. So it's always a good time. It's always fun, especially if you are doing a Halloween party of something like that. So we will move on to having a Halloween party or attending a Halloween party, just doing something, getting together with friends, dressing up in a costume, all things that entail Halloween. Everything that entails the spooky season can come together at a Halloween party. You can do a lot of these things on this list at a Halloween party, to prepare for a Halloween party, to host one, to attend one, just anything. What we like to do for our party is like, as far as like entertainment, like we don't put on like movies or anything like that at our parties. What we'll do is we'll play some spooky music, obviously. The TV will be muted and playing like old vintage Halloween cartoons and stuff like that, like some old silly symphonies, Mickey Mouse, stuff like that, Casper, just random vintage Halloween cartoons and stuff like that. There's tons of them out there. You can look up on YouTube like vintage Halloween shorts and stuff like that, and a lot of things will come up. So we always end up doing something like that. Of course, there's a spooky playlist that's always involved with songs that are in tune with the time of year. So Halloween party is kind of a catch-all for a lot of these things that are on the list already. So that's a good one too. Also going in with that, go to a pumpkin patch. Go to an apple orchard. Bring some pumpkins home to make into those jack-o'-lanterns for your Halloween party. Like, all of these are, like, very connected. You don't even necessarily need to buy anything at the pumpkin patch. Just go. Just go and hang out. Bring coffee from home if you don't feel like buying a coffee. Get a to-go cup and just bring it. Walk around, just see what there is to see, because a lot of those places have hay rides and stuff like that. If you're going to like a specific like pumpkin patch with like an apple orchard, you can walk through the orchards. again, it's amazing. Like some places might have like a corn maze, some have like petting zoos and stuff like that. Like there's a couple that we try to hit every year. One is just like a standard pumpkin patch, and that's where we get our pumpkins. But then we also try to go to one that has a little bit more entertainment value to it as well. So pumpkin patches, apple orchards, and just taking in everything that they are providing for you for the season. And again, a lot of these things, like you don't necessarily even have to spend a ton of money. If you go, like the big apple orchard that we go to in Ashtabula County is Brandt's Apple Orchard. It's always essential to go and get a hot apple cider, get a gallon of apple cider to bring home. It's just always something that we do every year, make a tradition out of these kind of things. It is going to be absolutely worth it. Coming up next on the list is visiting a haunted house. Not a haunted house, like an actual haunted house. Like, don't go sleep over at someone's haunted house where you're not allowed to actually go and sleep or anything like that. I'm saying go to a haunted house. Go to a 7 Floors of Hell. Go to a Forest of Screams. Go to a Field of Screams. Go to a Bloodview haunted house. Go to find a haunted house within your area and make it a tradition every year to go to a haunted house or multiple haunted houses. The past couple years, we've been going to at least 2 per year. And what we try to do is, like, we'll do one that we know is good, and then we'll try one that's brand new. Or, I mean, not necessarily brand new, like just open, but new to us. Sometimes if you don't have some in your area, you might have to drive an hour, drive a half hour, something like that. But they're absolutely worth it. I mean, you can find one that are super hardcore and stuff like that, or you can go to some that are a little bit more lighter if you have kids or if you scare easy. There's stuff like this for all walks of life. You can do like a Halloweekends thing at Cedar Point, or, you know, there's lots of things that you could do. If you're obviously not in the Ohio area, there's probably tons of theme parks or little mini haunted houses and stuff to do. I mean, luckily in Ohio, I think we're the haunted house capital of the United States, where we have tons of haunted houses all over the place. A lot of them have things that you can do besides the haunted house. A lot of them will have like a little restaurant or concession stand or places to get hot chocolate, hay ride, stuff like that. So, I mean, similar to some other things that I've talked about. But going to haunted houses is essential, especially going like with a group of friends. Like when we go, I always end up going in the back because everyone I go with, that's including Jared, that's including Maisie and my wife, they don't want people following us at the haunted house. They always have like someone in a clown mask like creeping up behind the corner or something like that follows you through the haunted house until you least expect it. So I'm always in the back. Emily's always in the front, and the 2 scaredy cats, Jared and Maisie, are sandwiched between us. It's normally Emily, Jared, Maisie, and myself. That's the walking order. So that's what we do. I mean, we go to 7 Floors of Hell. My favorite one in this area is probably the Forest of Screams. It combines a haunted hayride where they actually get on the hayride with you. Like, it'll stop at certain points and someone will run up on the trailer with a chainsaw and stuff like that. But then there's actual houses you walk through once you get off of the hayride. Like once you get back to like a further part, there's some haunted houses for you to go to as well. So that would be my recommendation. If you're in the Ohio area, definitely check out the Forest of Screams. I don't necessarily recommend the 7 Floors of Hell that much. It's post-COVID era. But who knows? I mean, it could always swing back and be better than what it was the past couple years. But I've been a little disappointed in it the past few times I've gone. But I'm hoping for them. I'm rooting for them. I want them to keep making it better and better. So maybe this year we'll check it out again, see what's going on. But the Forest of Screams is definitely the one to check out if you're vaguely from my area. But definitely go and research what haunted houses are in your area and check out some of the ones that are highly reviewed, or check out one that's brand new. Go support it so next year they can be bigger and better next year. For the next one on the list, I have attend like a horror film expo or convention. In this area, the big one is Cinema Wasteland. If you're into horror films, they have tons of vendors. and they screen films all night long on 2 different screens all over the hotel where it takes place. There's tons of cool stuff to see. They normally have some horror hosts that come down. They normally have some actors, directors, stuff like that from horror films come down and do meet and greets and stuff like that. It's always a great time, Cinema Wasteland, but there's obviously a lot that happen all over the country and in other countries if you're not from Ohio, obviously. Even if it's just something as simple as, your drive-in is having something, which we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But just anything you can do, like if it's even like a community event where they're doing something special for Halloween or something like that, like definitely get out, talk to other people, hang out, have some fun this Halloween season. I actually did not get to attend Cinema Wasteland this year, so I'm very disappointed about that. But it's definitely a good way for Halloween. Like, I wish I would have been able to go to Cinema Wasteland. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year. And there's also, in this area, I've been to a few times, the Lorraine Palace Theater. It's a beautiful theater. I'd love to record a podcast there, actually, or do like a whole episode there featuring it. But it's a big vintage theater. It's got the big chandeliers and stuff like that. And I went to a Texas Chainsaw event there. This year, they're doing a double feature for Terrifier 1 and 2. 2 and 3, rather. Just a beautiful theater that has big events. And obviously, even if it's just a Halloween flea market or stuff like that, like those are a lot of fun, too. Go to those every year. They have Halloween, like drive cruiser events, like not a drive-in, but like you go and like people have the hearses and they have all those decorated and stuff, and you can buy stuff there, and those are cool too. So definitely go to some sort of horror-themed event within your community, no matter what it is, even if it's just a movie night, which is what is tying in to the second to last thing on this list, which is have a movie marathon or a double feature or something like that. Obviously, I didn't want to just include watch a movie. You need to have an event take place. You need to invite all your friends over, or even if it's just you and your significant other, or even if it's just you need to marathon at least 3 to 4 films on a night. It can be films that go well together. It can be films that you just kind of pick randomly. Everyone can pick their own film or something like that, depending on how many people you have there. We did a podcast recently about the best horror double features. So those would be good for a good double feature or triple feature, even if you need some suggestions. If your movie theater or cinemas around you, or if you're near a drive-in, I guarantee they're doing some sort of Halloween film marathon. A lot of them are, especially if your Halloween season, your October, has a Friday the 13th in that month. Obviously, they'll be doing something crazy for that as well. But the drive-in this year, they have some double features going on. But we're just going to do a horror movie marathon here, hopefully. Curate a perfect playlist of films to watch. And I always like to find stuff that kind of reflects the season, like films that take place around Halloween, in or around Halloween. It just fits the vibe of what you're doing a lot better. Because you don't necessarily want to watch like horror film. You could, but me personally, I would want to have some Midwest small town-ish type horror. Like, I'm not going to watch Aqua Slash, or I'm not going to watch Jaws or something like that. Like something that takes place in the summer or the winter. I want films that are going to take place around the Halloween season. Like films like The Midnight Hour, if you don't want something that's Halloween or Trick or Treat or something like that. Or Lady in Black, or Lady in White, rather. Some stuff like that. Like, you can find films that take place around the autumn time that maybe are a little bit more niche than your Halloweens or your trick-or-treats or stuff like that. The last thing on the list is what I'm doing right now. Have yourself a Halloween fire. Like, as I mentioned, every year we like to do this at least a couple times in the autumn season, because the fire is actually providing you a lot more warmth. In the summertime, you can have a fire, but you're not going to be real close to it. In the autumn time, you can be a good distance from the fire, or you can be real up close to the fire, and it doesn't really matter. It's not like the winter time where you need to be right up against the fire. The autumn season is the perfect time to have a fire at night. That's what I'm doing right now. We normally do it closer to Halloween, and I'm going to be doing more fires this year, obviously. But this first one, I wanted to do it with a podcast. A lot of times I'll listen to some Halloween-typed music, normally have some sort of Samhain-type vibe going on. Like sometimes we'll burn flowers, sometimes we'll do some things that really make it feel like Halloween. But even if you're just going to sit around a fire, have a drink, alcoholic or not, have a snack, vintage pizza or not, nachos, whatever you want. You can listen to music, or you could just listen to the crackling of the fire and the crickets and the werewolves next door and all kinds of stuff. Or you can bring a film out here. I've done that many times. Watched a film outside in front of a fire. Just set your TV up on a table or some sort of stand and just sit out here and watch a film. I love doing that. I do that all the time. So this is my first of many Halloween fires. I'm hoping I have at least a couple more before the season wraps up. I hope I have at least a couple more, not just by myself. I want to do more fires by myself, obviously, but I want to have some friends over with some fires too. My wife is actually out of town tonight, so that's why I decided to just have this fire, just me. But it's been a great time, and it didn't feel like I was alone because I was talking to all you guys. So I didn't put a ton of logs on the fire, so it's actually dying down to quite a good amount right now. I was worried I was going to have to take a couple breaks and do some more applying of wood to the fire, but it actually timed out very well. I added like just enough wood where by the time we wrap this up, I'll be able to sit out here for about a half hour or whatever, just wait for it to burn out and then be done for the night. But this was a ton of fun. This was a very fun podcast to record. I don't know if the content was necessarily ideal for this, but I wanted it to be something real laid back. I wanted it to be something not incredibly structured, but something that still had some sort of guideline to it, I guess, because I could have just sat out here and rambled about nothing. But I wanted it to be some sort of a top 10 or something that just keep me on the rails a little bit. Maybe one day I'll do an episode where I just come out here, have a couple beers, and just talk about whatever just pops into my head. But this one, I think that this was a good first Campfire podcast. I think this was a good one. I look forward to doing a lot more of these, depending on the sound quality of this. We'll see what it actually sounds like. But there's some adjustments I can do to the audio of this to make it better for the next time. Like, obviously, if I feel like the fire is too loud, we'll move away from the fire next time. Or if it wasn't loud enough, we'll move closer. Because it's kind of hard to tell between the sound check and then what's actually happening with the fire and the nature around me, what's going to go on. So I did a quick sound test at the beginning, but we'll see how it sounds throughout the entire episode. So what episodes do you want to see me do in front of a campfire again? I mean, obviously I said I want to do one where we're telling some spooky stories, but what horror podcasts are perfect for the outdoors? I want to hear about it. I want you to let me know about it. This could be a good podcast to listen to outdoors too. I mean, I'm sure I stuttered a bunch and stuff like that, but if you're having a fire on your own and you want some company, this is the episode to put on. Buddy's House of Horror is the episode Buddy's House of Horror podcast is the podcast to be checking out. So as an honorable number 12, because I gave you a number 11 about horror video games, an honorable number 12, 12 Nights of Halloween. One of the best ways to celebrate the Halloween season is with Buddy's House of Horror podcast. I hope you guys have been enjoying all the episodes I've been doing so far. And again, I just really appreciate being able to do this. I mean, I don't care about views or making it famous or anything like that. I enjoy doing this podcast just being able to do it. It's really fun for me just to talk about horror films. It's what I love doing. It's what I'd be doing anyway if there wasn't a microphone right here. I'd be talking about horror films in one way or another. So again, I just appreciate all you guys listening and watching, and we are going to wrap this thing up. And yeah, I will see you guys again in the outro. Again, just thank all you guys for listening. Let me know what you want me to do next. I'm going to finish this Jacko. I'm going to wait for this fire to burn out, and we will see you in the outro. Well, that's about it for this time, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Let me know what podcast you want to hear me do next outside in front of a campfire. Give me some suggestions of things that would really fit the campfire fireside chat vibe. And if you guys haven't already, you need to make sure you're subscribing to the show wherever you're listening to the show, leaving me a rating, a review, 5-star reviews for the Campfire Conversations, and we will see you back here again for another episode of Buddy's House of Horror coming at you very, very soon. So take care and stay spooky.